Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews, I probably wasn't going to rest, man, until I got this video in, because, man, they took down one of the videos concerning this Amorite. And, man, they took the video down, and it always bothered me. And then I'm watching his videos all the time, and how he's real slick and deceptive. Men, the Amorites are real slick and deceptive, like they was in the ancient days when they deceived us when we come out of Egypt and pulled that trick on us and got into our heritage. Well, this same individual is of the same stock and doing the same thing. Now, this is the thing now. Ever since now, I know for certain he been watching my history and probably had something to do with that video being removed, because I'm showing a rabbi, a renowned rabbi that's well respected in the Jewish community, being deceitful about the Israelite history, which I'm going to do again, you know what I'm saying, because they always trying to cover their tracks, and it's real important for them to try to hold on to the Israelite heritages, because they got so much invested in it, and this is what I want to explain, Israelites, is that the people, we abandon our heritage too. Man, they been in our heritage, man, a long time, man. They been in our heritage since Exodus, man, since the 1400 BC's, like 1435 or something like that BCE, and how they been in our heritage longer than we had the covenant. Yes, they been in our heritage longer than we had the covenant. We only had the covenant, or was up under the covenant, for about 800 some years. I got videos explaining this, how after we Exodus and then messed up during the Babylonian wars, that was like 800 years from Exodus, Egypt, and being kicked out the land during the Babylonian wars. Well, these folks been in our heritage since Exodus all the way up to now. Now, we know that we abandoned our heritage during the Babylonian wars, where we say, well, we don't even want to do the covenant. I guess we never stopped saying that we was going to be who we were personally as a people, but far as following the stipulations of the covenant and trying to live righteous and be the priestly nation that the Most High wanted us to be, that we quit that job. We quit that job and went and got another job. Went and got a dirty, low-down job that didn't pay nothing but misery and hardship. Is how we went to Egypt and, worship their religion. And that's what caused the transatlantic slave trade, because we did that. But if you read Tanakh history and you get an understanding of the Amorites, man, we messed up by not destroying them, and we, been paying the price, because the civilization that we are living in now. And I got videos explaining how, it was created by the Amorite Sebhardists, from Babylon, the Mir families, the ancient Amorite noble families, created America. But look here, this the video, man, that they took down. The world greatest hidden secret, and actually it is the world's greatest hidden secret, but I done fixed it where it ain't the world's greatest hidden secret. And then they say that ours some COVID policy. They don't even talk about no COVID on the videos, but that's the reason that they took it down. I wish I could sue them for being dishonest and low down and so forth for doing that, and challenge them, men, about the video and their rules and so forth, and show that I ain't broke their rules, and how they just took that down in support of that rabbi being dishonest about Israelite history, as I'm going to show now. Now the Amorites going to constantly be dishonest. We have to accept that the Amorite Sephardists are going to be dishonest about Israelite history because they've been in our heritage a long time. It's clear, clean cut on how Ashkenazi come into our heritage as Scythians. So it's no problem with that. And then if you look at the videos, man, that Ashkenazi do on the Israelite history, you mostly see that they mostly just talking about, spiritual things, things concerning the Tanakh, and, mostly stay in that line and so forth. But whereas the Sephardists are trying to explain Israelite history in its totality and the movements and so forth, and then they use the Israelite history and us, not being there and they being there for a long time to cover up their origin as Amorites. You remember the Creator said that the iniquity of the Amorites are not, done at the time the prophet Abraham was around. Well, the iniquity of the Amorites is done now because we can understand them and how that they been in our heritage from the beginning. And that's been a deception. And then they created religions. All these religions in Western culture gonna come from them, and dealing with our heritage and so forth. But this is what I want to show you, Israelites, how deceptive this individual was. Now let me explain a little this before I get to the video so you can understand what he's, saying. And this is what the guy is saying, and I'm gonna show you his picture in just a second. This guy right here, his name is Henry Abramson. He's the most dishonest rabbi that I done ever come across, and how he's real crafty and slick and so forth when he explained Israelite history. Now, he was honest in the beginning of this video about little certain parts of our history, but then when he got down to the Babylonian captivity, this is where they real deceptive at, because the Amorites are from Babylon, and some Amorites come from Babylon that was placed in our heritage in 722 BC, not counting the Amorites that was in our heritage from Exodus, the same people, the same stock. All right, when he explained Israelite history and our destruction for breaking covenant, he makes sure that he don't mention the Israelites going into Africa and how he stay away from that. See, if they mention the Israelites went into Africa during the Babylonian wars, man, the whole wall crumbled like Jericho. Man, it's like Jericho, us marching them in and the whole wall crumbled. It's what's happening anyway, because the Israelite Brotherhood is exposing what's going on, and how the Amorites are still in our heritage being deceptive. And man, this guy is awful, man, because whenever he explained Israelite heritage, he'll go over the whole Tanakh, page for page. But when he get to the Babylonian wars and about the Israelites going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, saying that they don't want to do covenant no more, that he skipped that and then go all the way past that down to the exile part, and then he hang around them parts. But he don't stick around the book of Jeremiah long. He'll speak about the destruction, the temple getting burnt up, and then he'll fast forward. He don't say nothing about the Israelites going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion and how that they never returned to the promised land. See, then that's the problem. That's the problem right there. That's the problem. That's the big problem. That's the problem. And they real smart and crafty, because these Amorites been in control of civilizations, the Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian, in some of Egypt, in the other civilizations, and how that they are master administrators and master historians. They've been even keeping up with the Babylonian gods' history. Man, when the Babylonian gods' history and written and given to the people through the TV, who do you think behind writing the scripts and writing the storylines and so forth? Yes, yes. All right. When it comes to the Babylonian wars and talking about the Israelites ran into Africa, he know to stay clear away from that. He gonna stay clear away from that. Guess why he gonna stay clear away from that? Is because he know that those Israelites never come back out. The whole Israelite nation ran into Africa to do the Egyptian religion and never return home. Never return home because they say that they was through with the covenant. Why would they come back home? Why would they come back home and then they see the wars and then they see Ashkenaz tearing the promised land up? Then they see Ashkenaz tearing the promised land up. Man on them horses. Man on them horses coming in to get us, chasing us away. You know what I'm saying? We thought we was brave. Almighty y'all knew who he was sending for to get us up off the land. The tribes from the north. Jeremiah, what is it? 1:14 or 2:14. It's there and it happened. And they showed up and they chased us out. Alright. This individual here, he ain't gonna talk about the Israelites going into Africa knowing that they stayed, because then he know what that translate into the curses. And then he know the curses gonna talk about some ships and some iron yokes. They know where they was when that happened. They was on them ships. You know, it's a proven fact that the Sephardim had their hands in the transatlantic slave trade. Dr. Tony Martin covered it extensively, thoroughly. So that's locked in. We already know that. And then they tried to hide their archives as they always do. See, that's being slick. And that's what the Amorites been doing for a long time, is that they been in control of Western archives, history archives, and been behind it. So, you know, people been fooled, man, about historical events, and then especially about them. If you ain't no Tanakh specialist, man, you finna miss this. How long the Israelite organization's been around, and they ain't nowhere close to the history that I done put together for the Israelite community, for the Israelite brotherhood. You know, man, these folks are crafty. And it take a blessing from Almighty Yah, man, to wake up to see them. But now we see them now. See, now we see them. And we can understand what they, been doing to us. We can see them and we understand what they've been doing to us and how they've been deceptive with the Israelite history. They've been real deceptive with the Israelite history. And, we can understand that now. We can understand that now, and that's what I'm showing. How did this Babylonian scribe right here gonna be real deceptive with explaining Israelite history? All right, listen to him.
Destroyed with the first invasion of the Babylonians. This Cyrus cylinder does not specifically mention Jews, but it does have a fairly explicit description of allowing a kind of religious freedom for people to return to their temples, rebuild them, and so on, that many feel is actually a reference to this actual return to Israel in the later 6th century. Surprisingly, only a minority of Babylonian Jews, even though they've only been there for less than a century, only 20% of them, by biblical estimates, leave Babylonia. The other 80% like it. Cylinder does not specifically mention Jews, but it does have a fairly explicit description of allowing a kind of religious freedom for people to return to their temples, rebuild them, and so on, that many feel is actually a reference to this actual return to Israel in the later 6th century. Surprisingly, only a minority of Babylonian Jews, even though they've only been there for less than a century, only 20% of them, by biblical estimates, leave Babylonia. The other 80% like it in Iran and Iraq, and they choose to remain.
Man, that is so evil. You can't get no evil in that. And the reason that he's saying that is because he's trying to cover their trail. See, that's been covering their trail for a long time, saying that the Israelites stayed in Babylon and hung around and had fun. Why would the Israelites stay in Babylon when they was taken in captivity, and then they had a land that they can go back to, and then being freed by the Persians? Men, the temple was burnt up and their houses was burnt. The folks who want to go back and claim their land. We used to have parties on the promised land, and that was our sovereign land that we had control of until armies came and defeated us. Other than that, we had control of the land. Why would we forsake that and stay in the foreign land? I got proof to show that Nebuchadnezzar held the peoples in bondage and made them make bricks. Made them make bricks. About 1 million bricks was made in Babylon. And then they took us. Let me tell you what the people from Cypher do. This is what they do. This is how capitalism works. It can't work no other way. It's to go take a group of people and enslave them and keep them in bondage and profit off of them, exploit them, work them, and dog them out. And then that's what makes capitalism work. That's what makes capitalism work, because you got a poor, and then when you get the overseers of the poor, that create the middle class. When you get the overseers of the poor, that create the middle class, and then the people at the top is the oppressor. That's how capitalism works, and they the masters of it, and they been doing it for a long time. But this the thing is that dudes say that the Israelites went to Babylon and wanted to stay 80%. But let's look and see what Prophet Jeremiah told them. And that these are the good figs. These are the good figs that voluntarily went and was captured and went. They didn't have to stay and get took into Babylon, but that they was the good figs obeying Almighty Yah's word, because he promised that he was going to bring them home. So why would they stay in Babylon? They would be disobeying Almighty Yah's word if they was to stay in Babylon, knowing that they was the good figs and that they went and was to come back. You know what I'm saying? And that he was bringing them back. All right? Let's look and see what Prophet Jeremiah had to say. What he had to say. What he had to say about them being up in Babylon, and should they stay there. Should have had stayed there. Alright. This is Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah 51. This is Jeremiah 51. This said to Elohim, behold, I will rise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind, and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. And sure enough, Babylon was smitten by the Persians. Tore their mouth out. Tore them out, just like Almighty Yah said. And against them, because he said that Cyrus would free the people, and he called Cyrus by name during Prophet Isaiah time, like 147 years before Cyrus was even born, and how Cyrus was the anointed. And see, then against him that bendeth that the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifted himself up and his bread against his spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. This slain shall be in the fall of the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrusted through in her streets. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his Yah, of the Elohim of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Look, flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, For this is the time of the Elohim vengeance, and he will render unto her a recompense. So the Israelites was told to flee out of Babylon. They was told to flee out of Babylon, and they was never told to stay, and they wouldn't have never wanted to stay in Babylon. But let me tell you who's from Babylon. We're going to go look and see who is from Babylon. We know who's from Babylon. We know who's from Babylon. The Amorites. The Amorites are from Babylon. The Amorites are from Babylon. And the Amorites are the people we didn't destroy. And the Amorites got in our heritage during Exodus. And then the Amorites was placed in our land while we were slipping on Egyptian religion in the northern part. And they stayed there. Now they already in our heritage in the temple. They already in the temples or whatever congregation we gonna set up. Now they all over the land, everywhere, in every important part of our heritage. They there. To whereas when we get ran out, they got the whole heritage. So they gonna tell lies saying that the people stayed in Babylon because that gives an explanation of why. You know what I'm saying? They there, and them folks with Hebrew names was there. It's because the Amorites went there back to their homeland. I got a video called the Nethinims, and I prove without a shadow of a doubt how the people from Sipper come to the promised land at different points in time, and then how that they are the Sephardists. They are the Sephardists today. That's the Sephardists, and that's their origin. And that's that dude origin that's telling that lie, saying that we stayed in Babylon when we didn't. When it's these folks right here from Babylon. You know, the Amorite. You know, Babylon is the Amorites' homeland. Let's see if we can pull this up. Yeah, Babylon is the Amorites' homeland. Let's see if we can pull this up. Let me see. Alright. Alright, the Amorites. Amorites are Semitic people who seem to have emerged from western Mesopotamia and modern-day Syria. See, then look, I explained in a video not too long ago how that Ashkenazi, you know, homeland is Ukraine right here. Ukraine and the Khazars, and that's their homeland. And then how the Sephardi's been through all these Eastern nations, even settled in Russia. That's why they red flag. Wherever the red flag strong, that's gonna show that them Edomite Sephardi's there, and then probably got the folks' history. Definitely got the folks' history and language and everything going, chronicalized it and all that. That's just what they do and how they sit back in the back. But anyway, how Ashkenazi tried to take Syria, and that's an Amorite homeland. Man, all this is Amorite homeland, but trying to take Syria is more important than the promised land. You know what I'm saying? Because that's their homeland. Their homeland. And then Ashkenazi tried to take it. Now, these two groups have been having proxy wars since we Israelites, men abandoned our heritage to them during the Babylonian wars, and they've been fighting over control of it and how Ashkenazi wrestled supremacy of it. Alright, but Syria is an Amorite homeland, and when Ashkenazi, by proxy through the United States, tried to take Syria, you know what I'm saying, trying to extend their territory, the Ashkenazi territory, that that upset them real terribly, because that's the Amorite ancient homeland. And then the Sephardim kick it in Islamic nations. They created Islam. Wherever Islam at, the Sephardim Jews, the Sephardists, can roam around and do free trade and protect it by the Islamic government throughout history. Has been like that. throughout its creation, it's been like that. And then you see what happened. Russia's not a Islamic state, but you know they Asian and so forth. And then how did they back the Sephardims and the Sephardians on the slick, and then how did they went and got in Ukraine because of that. And then all this is supposed to lead to a world war that's gonna eventually free us. We Israelites pray. Don't none of you Israelites pray for our enemies or hope that our enemies prevail in any kind of way. Would be real senseless, knowing that we in captivity here in America, knowing that if our enemy lose, that it's our freedom. Only a fool will wish our captive success in battle, knowing that we held captive. You know, you got Israelites over there fighting for the enemy, strengthening our captivity. You know what I'm saying? It's like that general, meaning that they got that black general, meaning they got him up there, and then how he's the worstest slave catcher around, and represent ignorance. All the other nations looking at these black folks, these Israelites in this army fighting for these folks, knowing that they've been brainwashed since the slavery days and don't have no understanding the ideology. That's where the word zombie come from. It come from an Israelite. You know, the word zombie is how that they done took the Israelite whole mentality, whole mind away, and they just walking around. They don't know nothing. All they know it is a song, a get high, and some sex. That's it. They don't know nothing about their Israelite heritage. And that's because we up under the control of these folks right here, these Amorites. But you see, the Amorites are from Babylon. You know, they from Babylon, Mesopotamia. Babylon was their homeland in Super. And Super is where his folks from. And I can show this real easy. You know, it used to be, now this is what I didn't cause to happen, is the word Sephardim used to translate into Sephardi when you type it in. They don't do that now. You know, I'm a trendsetter. You know, I done made them close down sites and everything. Topics shut down, but because of this Israelite heritage. And now they done changed the computer word where Sephardim used to translate into Sephardi. You don't do that on a computer no more. They trying to clean it up. They trying to clean it up. Alright, I turn right to it. Look. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cuddar, and from Abel, and from Hamath, and from Sephardim. That's the Sephardi's homeland, Sippar, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. See, they Amorites. They Amorites, and they was Amorites already. Look, this is a thing, man, that I wanted to show. It is, look, all right, found in Sippar, Iraq. This is the ancient demons, ancient aliens, Mexican mass, Mesopotamia, clay tablets from Samaria, Babylon, Assyria. All this found in Sippar. All this found in Sippar. And Sippar is going to be where they kept the fallen angelic beings history at. Sippar is going to be where they kept the fallen angelic beings history in the Tanakh. You know, the Amorites are mixed with the giants, the Nephilims in the Tanakh, and they kept their history here in Sippar, Sephardim, where those people from Sippar, Sephardim was placed in our land while we was on Egyptian religion. See, everybody working against the Israelites, the Egyptians, everybody trying to destroy us from not being the priestly nation, because then their gods are no good. Their gods are no good, man. I think it's something in, let me see. Let me see if I can find this in Psalms 96. But their gods are no good if we Israelites are doing the covenant. And then that's what the people don't want. That's what they don't want. They gods ain't no good if we doing the covenant. They gods are worthless. Alright, let me see. And declare this glory among the heathen, his wonders among all the people. For the Elohim is great. For all, alright, look. Declare his glory among the heathen, his wonders among all people. For the Elohim is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Elohim made the heavens. You see what I'm saying? So all the gods of all the other nations are idols, no good. And then you can see them worshiping them idols and so forth. They got idols of Buddha, and they got Kabbalah rocks, and they got crosses, that they honor all kind of old stuff. But you see it say, for all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Elohim made the heavens. But those Sephardim folks kept the fallen angelic beings history. That's where it was kept at. That's one of their reasons for wanting to destroy Iraq and get control of it, so they can make sure no significant archaeological research are ever done. That's why the United States bombed it. So they bombed all the archaeological sites and places that would reveal these folks' history. But it's too late now, because you got somebody that understand Tanakh history. Alright, let's go to what them folks got in our heritage in Genesis. No, that'll be in second. Now that'll be in the book of Joshua. The Gabonites are Amorites. And I already showed it, them folks are Amorites that come from Cyprus, and Babylon founded Amorites. The founders of Babylon were Amorites. Alright. You see how they was crafty. You see how dude was crafty with explaining the Israelite history, saying that we went to Babylon and 80% of us stayed, when I just showed you that Prophet Jeremiah told them to come home, and they was the thieves that obeyed and went. They had the chance to go into Africa with everybody else, but that they believed and trusted the Creator to bring them home, and he did, with the Persians defeating the Babylonians. So why would them Israelites stay in Babylon away from their heritage and so forth? No, that didn't happen. But what did happen to the exiles upon returning, because we know Ezra documented all the Israelites coming home, that it was so many people coming home that it was some folks we ain't know where they was from, and we ain't even recognize them, and we was there for such a short time. And I show you that those the Babylonian Amorites and so forth that was trying to get in our heritage, but we put the brakes on it and stopped it during Ezra time when he was taking the genealogy. I just made a video showing how the prophet Ezra chronicalized our history. Alright, this is the Amorites getting in our heritage after we Exodus. After prophet Moses gone, we didn't consult the Creator when we ran across these Amorites. We had destroyed some of their kindreds, and then they seen it, and then they came and tricked us and act like they was from far off when they was really close. See, that's like in the promised land, they gonna act like they close, but when they really far off from Babylon. See how they do it in reverse. Look, and they come to pass, this is Joshua 9, and it come to pass, when all the kings which were on this side of Jordan, and in the hills and the valleys and all the coasts of the great sea over against Lebanon, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites heard thereof, that they gathered themselves together to fight with Joshua and with Israel with one accord. And when the inhabitants of Gabon heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and to Ai, they did work willily, and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles and old and rent and bound up, clothes and stuff, and old shoes, and clotted up on their feet, and old garments upon them, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. Now it's gonna take some real crafty folks, men, to deceive and go through that lint and deceive folks. You know what I'm saying? They was acting. They was acting back then. And then how about that they show that the first acting, meaning the first acting and so forth, was done in Babylon and so forth. And how the Babylonians, you know what I'm saying, the poor men of Nipper and Sipper are twin cities. Twin cities. And the 30-year-old, 3,000-year-old comic folk tale of Babylonian language in the version of text creation, but it show you the world's first film in Babylon. You know what I'm saying? And then we know that they didn't have filming, but making where the people sat in the audience and then they was acting out and so forth, and how they come from Babylon, from Sipper. All right, Sipper and Nipper, the same spots. See, Nipper, Sipper, those are twin cities and so forth. All right. So we see the Gabonites, tricked us. You know what I'm saying? They, put some old clothes on and stuff, and then acted all, like they was po, and tricked us. And the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you? And they said unto Joshua, we are thy servants. And Joshua said unto them, who are ye? And from whence ye come? And they said unto him, from very far country thy servants are come, because of the name of the Elohim. It says taking Almighty Yah name in vain right there. So they'll do that. You see how they took Almighty Yah name in vain? They took Almighty Yah name in vain then, and they'll lie on Almighty Yah in the Israelite heritage as they've been doing. And it's recorded in Tanakh that they'll do that. See, because of the name of the Elohim thy Yah, for we have heard of the fame of him and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites that were beyond Jordan, Sihon king of Heshbon, and all king of Bashan, which was of Astaroth. Wherefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spake unto us, saying, take victuals with you and for journey, and go to meet them, and say unto them, we are your servants. Therefore now make ye league with us. This were our bread we took hot for provisions for them out of our houses on the day we come forth to go unto you. But now behold, it is dry and it is moldy. Man, it's real deceptive. And these bottles of wine which we filled were new and behold, they are rent. These our garments, our shoes, become old by reason of the very long journey. And the men took up their victuals and asked no counsel at the mouth of the Elohim. And Joshua made peace with them and made a league with them to let them live. And the princes of the congregation swore unto them. You know what I'm saying? And then when we find out that they done tricked us like they always do, they been tricking us left and right now today about everything, Now this is the worst thing that we could have ever did. We couldn't have did nothing no worse than this right here. Is when we made those folks and made them permanently in our congregation, thinking to make them slaves in our heritage. They end up getting the whole heritage. We shouldn't have had them nowhere near around Yah worship, knowing that they was Amorites. These are the Amorites, and them the Amorites. That's what he is. He from Sipper, Sipharavim. Hardys are from Sepharvaim, and you just see how he lied and say that we all stayed in Babylon when Prophet Jeremiah told us to come home. Who you gonna believe? Him or them? I'm showing you that that's where they from. So after being in our heritage all that time before the Babylonian captivity, that some of them went home, a free ride home. And then they stayed in Babylon. They stayed in Babylon, and how it wasn't us. Alright? This is what we did that messed us up. And Joshua called for them, and he spake unto them, saying, Wherefore have ye beguiled us, saying, We are very far from you, when ye dwell among us? Now therefore ye are cursed. There shall none of you be freed from being bondmen. And we been been in bondage to them after we broke covenant, and how we been in bondage to them. And hewers of wood and drawers of water for the house of Yah. Look, for the house of Yah. That's terrible. That's a nightmare. That destroyed us. Joshua basically destroyed us when he did that and said that drawer of wood and water for the house of Yah. So whenever we build a temple, them Amorites that worship the Babylonian gods and been doing it for 5-6 civilizations before they got to us, now they in our house of worship. Now they in our house of worship. And we ain't gonna be able to get them out. We got to be destroyed because they in our house of worship now. And ain't nothing gonna go right because they fused in with us, and we made a bond with them. And look here, let's show that they Amorites. Let's show that they Amorites. Go to First Chronicles. And Second Chronicles 21. And the king called the Gabonites and said unto them, Look, now the Gabonites were not of the children of Israel, but were of the remain of the Amorites. And the children of Israel had sworn unto them. See, that messed us up right there. That messed us up right now today. We in bondage. And then them folks got our heritage, and they ain't gonna never try to give it back. And they gonna always try to keep our heritage on lock with deceit and tricks, as you see your boy did when he explained how the Israelites went to Babylon, and he say 80% stayed. Well, that's going to explain how they there, and they been in our heritage since Exodus. Then it make it seem like they are legitimate Israelites. Can you see what's going on, Israelites? Can you see it? They been in our heritage since Exodus. They from Babylon. We took to Babylon. They gonna try to say we stayed there, which explain, they existence there is what they trying to cover up on the back end, and they been getting away with it for a long time. But this what the Creator said back then. It's over with now because we see what's going on, and once we understand this, they ain't gonna hold our heritage forever. It's just a matter of time before we get back control of it internationally. Alright, go to 15:13. And this is what the prophet said. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. So, the iniquity of the Amorites, man, he got full when we were supposed to have destroyed them, but we never did. So they cup been on full for a long time, and now we understand what's going on and how we was tricked out of our heritage. And I got videos explaining how the Egyptians played a part in it too. Nobody wanted us to be that priestly nation. Nobody wanted us to be that priestly nation. They was terrified of us being a priestly nation to the Creator. They didn't want us to be the priestly nation to the Creator, because then that mean that they gods and all of those stuff that they worship is no good. That how we'll put it in a trash can. We'll put it in a trash can, but they didn't want us to be the priestly nation we were supposed to be. Alright, Israelites, I just wanted to show that how the Amorites are deceptive right now today, and how that guy tried to say that the Israelites stayed in Babylon when we didn't. When we come back by order of Prophet Jeremiah, and we even have the records of the Israelites that come back in the book of Ezra. And you see it, and it was so many folks that come back from Babylon that we had to say, hey, some of y'all ain't Israelites. Y'all ain't Israelites. Y'all ain't Israelites. A whole bunch of folks came. Mixed folks. All folks from all, you know what I'm saying, everywhere come trying to get in the Israelite heritage. Look, let me see. What is that? Alright. He told them not to mix. Man, there's so many of them folks come back, man, from Babylon trying to get in our heritage, man, that it was off. Let me see. These folks right here. Look, the Nethinims. This gonna be Nehemiah. But the Nethinims dwell in such and such and such. And the residue of Israel, other priests and the Levites were all in the cities, and everyone in their inheritance. But them old Nephilim folks, you know what I'm saying? We didn't count them among our Israelite heritage, because they couldn't say who they was from, and we was on in Babylon a little short time. Impossible for them not to know who families they was from, since we was in Babylon such a short time. It was them Amorites. It was the Amorites that had been in our heritage, that had come back with some of their relatives, or was trying to get in because their relatives been there, and probably some of them slept with some of them. But they tried to get into our heritage, and we told them, no, you can't get in. And them folks been deceptive ever since then. Alright, Israelites, much love to the Israelite Brotherhood family. We're going to be doing a little more history. You know what I'm saying? I want to do this one, man, about Edom. How Edom is hated in the Tanakh. In the Torah too. How Edom is not a good person. But then when you get to the New Testament, Edom is loved. Now, how the history just changed and the people mentality just changed all of a sudden about Edom. Something ain't right. I'm going to explain how the exiles were destroyed real fast. That's what got the Greeks in. And then they was able to forge a little Israelite history and pass it off. It's because the exiles from the Babylonian captivity got destroyed real fast. And that's the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, Zechariah, Haggai, and Malachi gonna be the last book. And if you read them books, you'll see the conditions and the mentality of the people. And it was off. It was off. It was over with. It was over with. Alright, Israelites, let me just do this one more time. Let me see this. Look, you see. Jewish groups. And those peoples was from Sephardim that moved into our land in 722 BC. And they was Amorites. The Amorites founded Babylon. And that when we was taken to Babylon, and they try to say some of us stayed, that would account for all them taking on our heritage from all that time, from Exodus all the way up to the Babylonian period. And then us being taken where their relatives was, they would start claiming our heritage up in Sipper in Babylon. And then they try to say that we stayed there. See, we don't have no control of our history and how we lost control of our history. I made the video about the scribes. We don't have no scribes. Nobody to keep up with our history. And then if our history fell into those folks' hands, and then they got scribes, Babylonian scribes, that put information out, and there's nobody to challenge it for these thousands of years. Man, they done built up a lot of strength and power and belief. Every single individual man it is a power cell that they bring together. And man, they got global power. Man, I'm talking about they got everybody, man, tricked and deceived on the Israelite heritage and been doing it for a long time. So, if we abandon our heritage and they got control of it, that's what's going to happen. And that's what happened. And, people think that the Amorites, the Sephardims, are Israelites. But they're not. And they're from Sipper, from Babylon. They're Amorites. And they was in our heritage from the beginning. And we made them keepers in the temple. Yah worship, the worst thing we could have ever did, because when we got ran off for doing Egyptian religion, that they got our whole heritage. Our whole heritage. And hear us running off to do the Egyptian religion during the Babylonian Wars. If you go to Jeremiah 44, I'm just summing it all up. Verse 15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt, in Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things. Now we went into Africa and never returned. And whenever this guy here explaining the Babylonian captivity, how he skipped past that part, what I just read right there, all of them do. Every last one of them do. Because then they got to account for what happened to the Israelites in Africa after the Babylonian Wars. They know we didn't return because we was doing Egyptian religion. It would have been recorded by the prophets, Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. That was the reason for Almighty Yah bringing his wrath down on us, is because those Israelites say that they wanted to do the Egyptian religion. That was our reason for going into slavery. So he's real deceptive. They're real deceptive. Alright, Israelites, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Much love to everybody, and I pray that everybody's doing well.